Welcome, Coach BK. This video is going to be a quick kind of nutshell video on the hormone system, the endocrine system. The endocrine system is a conglomeration of glands that interacts and controls everything in the body, from energy production to sleep to metabolism to producing other human beings. It's a very complex system. It interacts with all the other systems in the body. It's influenced by so many different things, and I think that this is one of the reasons why we really struggle to make permanent and positive changes in this system. It's just very complex. So this is why we have to kind of take a step back, look at the nuts and bolts of it to kind of get a good idea of what we're talking about, and then translate that into eating right and living right, and how do we manage all of this with our age, with having had 3 or 5 kids, whatever, and then applying these principles that we're going to learn to endurance training, losing weight, etc. So talking about the endocrine hormonal system, the glands themselves specifically, and we can talk about 8 or 9 different glands. I want to say what Webster says about this system, a collection of endocrine glands that produces hormones that are used as chemical messengers throughout the body to regulate vital processes, metabolism, growth, sleep, reproduction. Okay, so think about the endocrine system like the post office. You have the post office, you have the mailman, you have the mail trucks, you have the roads, all to deliver important information where it needs to go. Adding on to that, after you get that information, the letter gets sent to your house, then it stimulates an action, you do something, etc. Another thing to think about in the endocrine system is it's a dance, okay? It's a dance between the hormones that are produced by the endocrine glands and the receptor cells in the target organs. You could think about it as lock and key. So the hormones are designed to be very specific, do very specific roles. That's why it's so complex. And then the receptor cells in the target organs, a receptor cell only matches up with, this is how it's designed, match up with its correct hormone. On down the road, we are going to talk about things in our environment that act like hormones and that get the system completely off. An example is plastic acting like estrogen, okay? So anyway, receptor cells, this dance, hormones basically send a message, the receptor cell picks it up, and then something happens, okay? And it's just going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth all the time. I want you to leave with the thought that it's complex, okay? This is why we need to take a pause, look at it, give it adequate respect. Don't only think about hormone system as sex and whatnot, okay? It's functioning and it regulates everything. So the system team players in the endocrine system, the pituitary gland, this is the master gland in the brain, at the base of the brain, works with the hypothalamus, comes in 2 parts, produces 8 different hormones. We're going to talk about the glands separate when we talk more about the individual hormones. So that's going to be the next video. Okay, that's pituitary gland in the brain. Thyroid gland regulates body's metabolism, produces energy. Okay, on the link provided with this video, you'll see in the body where the thyroid gland is at in the throat area. Parathyroid gland, very neighbors to the thyroid gland, but they do different things. Here comes in actually 4 different parts. Regulates blood calcium levels, has an influence on bones, muscle contraction. So the health of your thyroid, the functioning of your parathyroid is going to have a very large impact on your bone health, bone density, as well as muscle contractions, how well all of that works. That's all calcium driven is critical. The body and the bloodstream have to be on point with this one. So very critical gland. We add the thymus gland into this conversation. You won't see this on most pictures and lists, and it is not on the picture that I've provided on the article. However, we add it in just to talk about it. It's part of the immune system. It's located between the lungs, behind the sternum. It's largest before puberty, and then it stops doing its thing and turns into fat later on. The adrenal glands, they are located by the kidneys. They are in charge of regulating the body's response to stress. And when we say stress, we don't just necessarily mean bad. We mean if it's hot outside, that's stress to the body that triggers the body's response. But lots of stress, right? Also regulates body's pH, heart rate, blood pressure, energy production, CO2 regulation. So when you think about the adrenal glands regulate the body's response to stress, this response to stress is very broad. It's eye dilation, it's blood pressure, it's heart rate, it's what your body's doing with blood sugar, all of that. It's very large. So just don't think about stress because your boss is yelling at you. Next gland, the pancreas, in charge of digestion and controlling blood sugar levels with insulin. We have the sex glands, so ovaries in women and producing sex hormones, and then the testes in men producing male androgen, male hormones. We will get into those later. Okay, talking about the pineal gland, production of melatonin, the sleep hormone, which starts in the eye, actually, interestingly enough. That's why they say don't be watching TV all night, put your phone down, etc., if you want better sleep, when they're talking about cleaner sleep. The eye stimulation, this is why when people are working nights or whatnot, when the sun comes up, you're supposed to wake up. It's all about the eye. That melatonin starts its stimulus in the eye. Okay, and then hypothalamus, another big one. Neighbors to pituitary gland, they work hand in hand. We'll talk more about that later. But the hypothalamus is a link between the nervous system and the endocrine gland. So when the body gets hot, the hypothalamus involved, it understands, oh, I'm hot. And then it tells the pituitary gland what to do about it, okay? So very important, the hypothalamus produces neurohormones that tell the hypothalamus what hormones to produce, sends that to pituitary, boom, okay? An example is you're hot when you're at Muncie 70.3 and it's hot and your body gets the stimulus that it's hot. It gets a lot of other stimulus too. And this is why it's hard sometimes when you have to weed through the stimulus. And so the hypothalamus is gonna, take in that stimulus that you're hot, and then it's gonna do something about it, and it triggers a hormonal response that is going to help manage sodium, help manage your hydration, mostly to help you not melt your brain. However, muscle contraction is involved. All these things are involved to keep you cooler. Heart rate goes up, etc., etc. Okay, so that's kind of a rundown of the endocrine glands. Just take this in, think about it, and again, I want you to be left with the thought that it's complex. There's some things that you can do to make a positive change with this, and we're going to talk about this more later. But I want you to really impress on you that hormones, your endocrine system is complex, very involved, and you know, how it relates to endurance training would be, you know, like I said before, when it's hot, sometimes there's so much stimulus coming in that you have to have discretion on what stimulus you need to pay attention to, how you need to change that, and whatnot. And so we'll talk more about that later. The endocrine glands are special in that they can release hormones, and the hormones go everywhere in the body versus other glands like your sweat glands. They act through ducts, and then they only act upon that area locally, where the endocrine glands can produce hormones that travel through the bloodstream called diffusion, through a process called diffusion, and so they can interact with the body as a whole. Okay, that's kind of an interesting tidbit. So that is a quick nutshell on the endocrine system. It's just so complex, but we're going to kind of break it down. Let me know if you have any questions on this. This is just information to put into your head, thought process through it. Ask me questions if you have any in the group. And we're going to move on to the next video of what the hormones are actually doing a little bit more in depth, so we can kind of get an idea. And again, we are trying to relate this to our everyday world. So sleeping better, okay, losing weight, blood sugar management, having adequate energy throughout the day, and then relating that to racing and training as far as how to go through the long haul and be healthier on the flip side, how to lose weight while you're trying to do this, how to maintain your hormonal health during endurance training and racing, and then being a smarter athlete and how to navigate what comes up, like if you start sleeping poorly, or if, ladies, if you start losing your period or your period gets a little less regular, etc., etc. We want to know all of these things because, as we've kind of talked about before, your bone health depends on getting some of this stuff right, and you need to be a little bit more educated and understand what your body's telling you, so you don't end up 20 years down the road finding out that your racing and your training and the things that you were doing to make yourself healthy and happy actually negatively impacted your health on down the road. So let me know if you have any questions. Have a great day.